You still don't know what a millennial is? Seems the parameter changes every year. Because you know what it is? Kids who were born in the 90s all want to be able to call themselves 90s kids. But they're just a 90s baby. A 90s kid is someone who remembers the 90s and took part in the culture in the 90s, right? And the people born in 98 cannot handle that the knowledge that they don't remember the 90s, right? And they try to pretend the early thousands and the Y2K era was the 90s, but it wasn't. And that's why the bar feels like it changes, because a lot of the people born in the late 90s try to force it. And I'm like, hey, you know, the early thousands were great. You should be proud of that. In fact, every era has great bits about it, and you can just hang out with that. You were born in 94, don't consider yourself a 90s kid because you mostly remember the aughts. Yeah, it just depends on how you were raised. I know people born around then that really do remember a lot of that stuff, and that's like their most formative things culturally that they can call back to. And then other people born at the same time that, yeah, what they remember the early aughts, and that's it. So, depends on the person, too. You remember Clinton vaguely. Good old Bill. Yeah. Problem is, millennials used for anyone born before 2000. No, it's not. Most people don't. The most commonly used one is that 97 cutoff. 97. So born after 97, so 98 and beyond. Zoomer. That's the most commonly used one. Because what that is, in my opinion, it depends on the person, again, how they were raised, but that's the cutoff where if you were born in 97 or really born 96, 95, I feel like you might still remember dial-up internet. You might have used it in your youth. But if you're born after that, your first things you were really doing, your first real internet use, maybe not your first time getting on it once, but like your first real internet time was after that. And I think that's the more formative thing. So the cutoff makes more sense being there. I like the ones that say, yeah, it's like 95, because I feel like if you're born 96 or later, you have more in common with the Zoomer internet era, right? But, you know, it's not about the yearly cutoff so much as it's about what what you did. Did you have a phone before you had internet on your phone? Okay, you're a little more like a millennial. If you had a phone and you were in like middle school, but that first phone had internet, you fit more into the older Zoomer crowd. Maybe not humor-wise, but in the what you were raised with crowd, right? I would think. That's at least what it feels like in my mind. That's what I feel like is most formative. You can generally remember things once you're age 5 and older. Generally, yes, some people have really good memory of things from when they were even younger than that, but it depends on the person too, right? So that's why, like, someone born in 97 might know nothing about the 90s, remember nothing, but someone else born the same year might actually remember a little. You know? Depends on the person. I think actually a bigger factor is siblings. Let's say you were born in 95 and you have all younger siblings and everything you did was with your younger siblings. Okay, you're gonna have a lot more in common with people that are Zoomers. If you're born 95, same exact date, but all of your siblings are older, okay, you're gonna have a lot more in common with the proper, like, millennial era stuff, you know? Because you'll have gotten handed down all their stuff. You'll have done things with them when you were very little and done things maybe a little before your time if you were an only child, right? So I think all of that kind of factors in more than the exact year you were born, right? So much more subjective. So much more subjective. You can't remember what you were doing last month. Yeah, exactly. So people don't know shit. Actually, what I'm saying. Born 81, just feel old. It's not that old. Like being full X can go boomer when I hear stuff, don't want to care about it. Being Gen X it's weird because you lack a lot of the boomer era ease in life, right? And I wouldn't say boomers had the easiest time ever because some of them really didn't. It's just on average, you know, things were different. So a lot of them did, but you didn't really get that, but you also weren't in complete millennial despair. So you're just like, okay, and now starting to suffer. It's a very weird generation. It's a weird gen. And because they're the fewest Gen Xers, no one listens to the complaints. Everyone's like, shut up, because there are 10 of them. You know what I mean? If you're not a boomer or millennial, I don't want to hear your complaints. Zoomers aren't real. Gen X doesn't exist. That's how it feels. Everyone treats Gen Xers, you know? Right? Like talking about rent prices just 10 years ago, it's $1,500 more for the same apartment. Oh, tell me about it. I know. For the longest time, I didn't live alone. I just always lived with family members. And if I wasn't living in like a parent's house, I was living with a sibling in an apartment or somewhere because Ew. Ew. And I thought stuff was expensive back then, and now it's crazy. Absolutely insane. Gen X were latchkey kids. Yeah. Yeah. Me too. Me too. Apartments used to be for young people, now they're for rich people. I mean, we're just going full circle. We're going back to the era of 3 generations of people living in one house. This was like early America, guys. It's great. It's just like the good old days. When life was simpler and you'd wake up and go work as a dude delivering papers for 10 hours. So simple, so great. Everyone's so happy. Yay. Right?